Chicagoans were now left to fend for themselves. Police officer Richard Bellinger was one of many Northsiders who tried to save his home.
He had carefully prepared the area around the house, getting loose twigs and brush and combustible materials, wetting blankets and wetting down the roof to save it from falling embers.
When water dried up, Officer Bellinger is said to have doused his home with barrels of hard cider.
There are a lot of stories and legends about the fire and who did what, and some of them you have to take with a little grain of salt, but they're still darn good stories.
Northsiders buried valuables in the ground, including at least one piano. Most grabbed a few cherished items, gathered their families, and ran.
You've got, a minute, 2 minutes. What's the most important thing? What are you going to grab?
Anything, and strangely, everything. I mean, there were women who took their pet parakeets. People were seen with, chihuahuas in their arms.
Bibles, jewelry.
People are cutting oil paintings out of their frames and saving pieces of furniture.
Bessie Bradwell, who was 13 years old, thinks to bring her doll.
As the North Side erupted in flames, thousands of men, women, and children fled to the city's fringes. Some retreated west to the prairie, where they huddled on the ground. Others rushed east to an unlikely refuge. The city had been removing caskets from an old cemetery to make room for Lincoln Park. When the fire reached the cemetery, people climbed into empty graves.
Some people apparently died in the open graves. They jumped into the graves to stay away from the fires, and of course they suffocated.
Still others hurried to a notorious lakefront vice district called the Sands.
But look, the fire isn't class conscious. The fire burns everything. So you've got prostitutes, and you've got criminals, and you've got poor, and you've got rich. The fire's a real equalizer.
Many waded into the lake up to their waists and stayed there for hours, desperate to avoid the searing heat.
Standing in water and seeing your city burn behind you, but also your history, your home, your belongings, your memories that are attached to place, right? That is gone.
As the sun rose over Lake Michigan on Monday morning, the fire had been raging for 10 hours. And yet it still showed no sign of slowing down, continuing to spread north and south. In the early morning light, Catherine O'Leary could see the vast clouds of smoke that marked the destruction of the business district and North Side. William Bross's Tribune now lay in ruins, and the blaze rumbled steadily toward his lakefront mansion. He hastily loaded some prized possessions onto a wagon. It was the last he ever saw of those belongings.
Even though he was a wealthy and substantial citizen, he suffered the indignity that many people did, where hustlers who had wagons and transportation offering to help move your goods would take your money, disappear with your stuff, and you'd never see it again.
As he evacuated his home, Bross suffered one final indignity.
There's a stranger in his house. The stranger is wearing his clothing. Bross knows he can't do anything about it. He just wishes him adieu and says, go. And the guy leaves the house.
At around 11 a.m., Bross and his neighbors sat on the shore of Lake Michigan, helplessly watching the flames creep toward their mansions.
Soon I saw the angry flame bursting from my home. Quickly and grandly, they wrapped up the whole block, and away it floated in black clouds over Lake Michigan.
Bross's home was one of the last on the South Side to go. On Monday night, rain began to fall on Chicago. It felt like divine intervention to many.
Imagine the feeling of rain on your face after feeling that intense heat, after seeing those flames. Feeling the rain on their face just was a sense of utter relief that finally they had survived, they had endured, and finally were making it through to the end of the fire.